And former Hunter Biden business partner Tony Bobulinski is on Capitol Hill right now. He's testifying inside 2 House panels, and it's part of the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer with some insight on what Bobulinski may know.
One of the things that Tony Bobulinski has said in interviews in the past is the fact that Joe Biden was the big guy. Bobulinski was privileged to a lot of information about just exactly what the Bidens were going to do with China. And I think it's important for the American people to know exactly what CEFC was, who actually owned CEFC, and what role Joe Biden played in CEFC. And I think Tony Bobulinski has those answers.
Well, a new op-ed is warning the Biden family Bobulinski is the most deadly impeachment witness. About a month ago, you may recall Hunter Biden's business partner Bob Walker told lawmakers President Biden met with the chairman of the Chinese firm his son was making deals with in 2017. Now, remember, the president has said repeatedly he didn't have anything to do with anybody that his son was working with on business deals. Notice the country, China. Democratic House staffers now weighing in on the impeachment effort, and a new memo, which writes, Republicans have sacrificed the privacy and safety of these individuals in the name of digging up dirt on the Biden family, an effort which has spectacularly and unequivocally failed. Ben Domenech, the Spectator editor at large. Would you describe it as a failure, what Republicans are doing in digging up truths and unearthing meetings that the president said he never had?
I mean, this is as ridiculous as when they tell us that, we see the president and we can tell that he's completely on top of everything and that he's the hardest working guy who's ever held the job. It's just laughable on its face, Harris. And I think it's important to understand what the Republicans are trying to do with this series of interviews that they're conducting. It's something that, frankly, Democrats did not do when it came to building a case under their impeachments. They're being much more diligent in approaching these matters. They're trying to essentially lay out all the different facts according to the witnesses who are, in many cases, as close to the family as you can possibly get, very well aware of the different meetings, the different phone calls, et cetera, that happened between Joe Biden and a number of figures who, as you noted, have attachments with China that are, frankly, eyebrow-raising. And so I think that, we'll see what comes out of this conversation that's going on today on Capitol Hill, and I think that will eventually be laid in front of the American people for them to judge for themselves.
Look, you're right. When we look at the president, we see what we see. But I tell you, it's an awfully convenient setup that he has no memory. So then you wouldn't have any memory about meeting people, through business deals with China and Russia and Ukraine. You wouldn't remember any of that. I mean, I just wonder what the fine line is on the president's memory, because he says he remembers the facts in the Robert Hur investigation, yet they didn't indict because they weren't sure that a jury could get through him not remembering anything. I don't know. It just seems too convenient.
It seems very, very convenient, Harris, and I don't think that we should pause in questioning that, have any sort of misgivings about questioning it, because it certainly seems to play to his advantage.
Yeah. Well, either way, the American public doesn't win, whether we have a president who is not being honest about his memory or really can't remember anything at all. Inflation still is dogging the Biden administration, and most of all, American families, of course. New data shows prices rose more than expected last month, up by more than 3% from a year ago. Food prices up by 2.5% overall in the past year, even more than that for staples like meat, sugar, and bread. And the news is affecting the Dow Jones, down more than 400 points on that news after some red-hot days recently. The stubborn inflation also means we won't see relief from high interest rates anytime soon. And the White House is commenting just this hour.
We've been very clear here that prices are still too high. That is something that we've done, whether it's junk fees, right, whether it's health care, whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act. We understand there's more work to be done, but this is an economy that is in a much different place than it was a year ago, a much different place, obviously, than it was 3 years ago.
Actually, for the prices, that's not true, because prices don't come down when inflation abates a bit, and now you see it going back up. I mean, that's a nightmare scenario.
Look, I think, Harris, that the White House sounds divorced from reality on so many different things, but nowhere more than this. They simply deny the reality that the American family experiences on a daily basis when they see the prices of the goods that they purchase regularly, especially for families, working families across the country. It's just an insult to them to claim that they're not seeing that type of impact on their pocketbooks. And I would particularly point out to you, Harris, that the cost of electricity has gone up exorbitantly. It's something that you can't get away from. It's not like you can turn that off, and function as a household. And so when they are talking about these issues, they sound so dismissive, and they're not doing any of the things that you would try to do to try to turn things around. Instead, they're just telling people, you're not actually seeing that thing that you're seeing, just like it is with the president himself.
You just tipped us into a whole new lane about not caring about the American people. The preaching about plugging in electrical everything, take away your gas stove, drive EVs, which are still very highly priced for most Americans to afford. And now you want to drive up what fuels those things, electricity. And oh, by the way, that electricity has enough pressure on it already because most of it is fossil fuel generated. 10 seconds.
I just think that this White House is really botching so many things at this moment, including their handling of the spin around the president's age. And I don't know how they can get worse, but they need to turn things around if they're going to have a hope in November.
Yeah, and the country needs it too. We want them to succeed if they can. Ben, great to see you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.